Hello out there in Frida land.
Hello.
Hi there. My name is Craig Duffy. I am a member of the board here at the Frida, and before that, a longtime supporter. Going back into that supporting, in our very first year, our very first summer here, I wasn't obviously a board member. I was just a fanatic, and I had a sort of tenuous connection to our special guest here, Miss Allison Anders, that reached out to her about, she has a film that she co-directed with Kurt Voss called Strutter that had rarely screened outside of festivals. And I'm like, could we show that here at the Frida? And they both said sure, and we got him out here. So it's kind of Return of the Queen here today. Woo! I'm honored to welcome Miss Allison Anders.
Hi, you guys. So glad to be back here again. Thank you, Craig.
You're welcome.
And Logan. All right.
So
I've got this shirt on for you. Have you noticed?
So, your relationship with Wim Wenders, outside of just being a fan, began with fan letters.
Oh, yeah. Obsessive fan letters. So I wrote my first one about his film Lightning Over Water, which is rarely kind of seen, pretty obscure movie. But I had read about him doing Hammett. And when I read about him and saw pictures of him, he just looked so cool. And the things he was saying was like, I was like, that's what I want to do. What he's talking about, that's what I want to do. So, but then I saw The American Friend, and because it was noir, it was kind of, I didn't quite connect to it. But then I saw Lightning Over Water, and something just, I can't explain. It just hit. So I wrote him a letter, and I called the DGA, got his agent contact. He had an American agent here in town. And after a whole week, I asked if I could send a letter to him, and they said sure. And after a whole week, he didn't respond. I also made him a mixtape of girl group music. And some of my friends were like, that's a little weird. He's a director. And I go, so what? He's like young. He's not like an old man director. He's like a young guy. And he uses great music in his films. So, he'll appreciate it. So after a whole week, he didn't respond. So I called the agency again. I go, I'm just checking if you got the letter from me for Wim Wenders. And they go, oh, we probably sent it to his home in New York. So I said, oh. So then I hung up, and then I thought, I wonder if he's listed. And I thought, that's ridiculous. But I find he's listed in the phone book. So so I called him at home. Well, first I called Kurt Voss, and I go, oh, shit, I've got his phone number. What do I do? And he goes, oh, God, I guess you're going to have to call him. So I called him, and he goes, I go, are you Wim Wenders? He was like, well, and I said, well, this is Allison Anders, and I sent you a letter. And he's quiet for a minute, and he goes, oh, yes, the big one. And I said, yeah, it was a little long. But he says, so then it was this awkward pause, and I go, well, what are you doing right now? And he goes, I'm watching football. So he says, listen, Allison, I don't write many letters, but if you want to keep writing to me, you can. And I said, should I send it to your agent then? And he says, no, send it to my home. And he gave me his home address. So and then before he hung up, he says, and by the way, I love the girl group tape.
There you go.
So, and recently I was telling these guys that recently he told me, I still have all your tapes, I still have them, the mixtapes that I made for him over the years. So, and he also bought me my first iPod, by the way.
There you go.
So then I just followed up, and I continued to write him letters, and people are like, what do you write to him about? Are you trying to get a job? And I said, no. I'm writing to him about my life and about, and he still has the letters too, by the way. He still has the letters and the journals that I kept on Paris, Texas as well. So finally one day what happened was he was coming to town, and I was already in UCLA film school. I had gotten into film school, and he says, Allison, it's Vim. I'm coming to town, and I'm wondering if you can find time to show me your film. And I was like, oh my God. So I had this little Super 8 film. It was my first project at UCLA. But he had advised me on the project, if you can believe it, on my script and everything. So he came and saw the film, and he says, and get together some other films too. So Dean Lent and Scott Kirby and Kurt Voss, we all showed him our films. Now, meanwhile, I had applied for a grant, lying my ass off, and saying that he invited me to study under him on Paris, Texas. So, and I won. And so did Dean and Scott. They applied for the same grant. So, so Vim's watching my movie, and he's like, he had told me not to do dissolves in the camera, but I did it anyways. And he had, and then he looked at him and he goes, okay, very risky, but very beautiful, So, so then I said, well, so I won this grant, and he says, well, congratulations. And I said, yeah, it's to study under you on Paris, Texas. And so he just got this faraway look, and he goes, well, I guess you'll have to come. And then I said, and these guys got the same grant. So he took all three of us on to Paris, Texas. So, the other two guys were proper PAs, but he had me float around in different departments, so that I just learned what a crew was like,
Well, yeah, you got to have a very special relationship with Harry Dean Stanton via your journals.
So one of the things that happened was that Vim, and he says this to this day, he goes, I can't thank you enough because I don't think Harry would have ever learned his lines if not for you. So what happened was Vim said, I want you to run lines with Harry Dean, and I didn't know what that meant, by the way. Of course I was like, oh, okay, sure. I didn't know what that meant. So, it's just going through the lines with Harry and then, helping him to remember the lines. So one day I was in the trailer, in Harry's trailer, with him and Dean Stockwell, and Harry's like walking around going, God damn it, Vim's not telling me anything about this guy. Is he mute? Is he catatonic? What's going on with him? And I was like, I was catatonic once. And so these two guys are just looking at me like, And so I said, yeah, I didn't talk for a long time. And I said, I wrote a poem about it. And Dean Stockwell looks at me and he goes, honey, would you happen to have that poem here? And for some stupid reason, I did. So, then they just grilled me. So funny enough, it was like Scott Kirby had to go back to my hotel, get the poem, and bring it. And they just asked me questions, like, what could you hear people talking to you? Why wouldn't you talk? And, all of this stuff. So, and I remember Harry asking, was your voice shaky when you finally talked? I said, no, I just started talking. And I said, and then everybody did one of these, like, whoa, she's talking. And so it's funny because in this, there's the scene where this comes to pass, and it's every time that I see it now, I go, oh my God, they did it exactly like I told them, both of them. Mm-hmm. So it's really was, for years, up until his dying days, Harry always said there was a girl working on the film, and she really helped him form that whole part of Travis's character, which mm-hmm. is like just so touching, and I can't believe we never made a film together. It's just ridiculous, but. Yeah, it was the first time I realized that my personal experience could be valuable to an actor, you know. So I started to realize what directing was about. But also, I also understood that maybe Wim was withholding this information from Harry for a reason. So sometimes I feel like, oh God, I got in there and muckied things up, man. It didn't for him.
Yeah.
It didn't for him, but it could have, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think, boy, what if I had a little brat like me on my set? I'd be like, stop telling that to the actors. I don't want them to know that yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you contributed to like one of the finest performances of the like decade. I was revisiting it recently, and I'm like, how did both Harry Dean and Nastassja not win every award
for sure.
across the board?
For sure. For sure. They're both so good in it. I mean, it's her best performance, and you know, and Hunter for that matter. I mean, what a brilliant little child performance, you know. And and there was a moment. I mean, I just written about this recently where I watched Karen Black, his mother, the little boy, Hunter's mother. She was on set one day, and there was a scene that isn't in the movie anymore where he was sleepwalking. And I was just watching her teaching him how to do that scene.
Wow.
And it's just, you know, there were just a million of these wonderful moments. Of course, my first AD was Claire Denis, the great French filmmaker. And then Agnès Godard, the great French cinematographer, was Robbie Mueller's camera assistant. And of course, Robbie Mueller, please.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
It's awesome, you know, that, you know, such a, you know, an atmosphere with, you know, men, and it wasn't, you know, a bro-heavy, you know.
No way.
Atmosphere.
Yeah, he had so many women on the crew. Production designer was a woman. The sound guys were all guys, but there was a, you know, the costume designer, I think the makeup artist was a man, funny enough, roles reversed. And the prop master was a woman that I worked with a bunch.
Awesome. So what was the road experience? Because, you know, like, of, you know, having to, you know, that, was it you hear about like the circus, you know, comes into town, or, you know, and then packs up and moves on, or?
Well, what's amazing is that this was shot in sequence, pretty much. So there were 3 different parts. So we went to, first we started in, you know, down at Big Bend, you know, in Terralingua and stuff in Texas. So we're deep in it. Although Dean Lent, Wim's stepson, Patrick Kreutzer, and I drove his van to Texas. So we did this road trip, you know, along the 10, going through Deming, New Mexico, where we would shoot one little bit for Paris, Texas, just a small crew, and where I would shoot Gas Food Lodging later. So so we went through that, and then so then we went through Texas, coming back to LA, right? So it's coming back to them getting on the plane, and you know,
And not getting on the plane.
and not getting on the plane, yes. And so we did the trip through Texas and then back. Then we did LA and back again, and then, you know, so it was like twice, you know, it was like but for me it was 3 times. And for Wim it was 3 times, because Wim drove to Texas also. So on his own before I got there. So so it was interesting. I mean, the road stuff was great. I mean, people were I mean, they'd pick up locals there. I mean, at Port Arthur especially, that's when we really had our most extras, was for the Keyhole Club. And so so there were a lot of locals on that, and a lot of local talent and so forth. So and then some local band, the Midals, who I just did a Q&A with in at the Harry Dean Stanton Film Festival over the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I was trying to like find if they were on Apple Music or anything when after my recent rewatch in preparation for this. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is good stuff.
And they're still together, yeah.
Awesome. So by this point in your life, you were a mother. Did you bring like your daughters on the set? Did they come along?
They didn't come on the road, but they are in a scene. Oh, that's where we had our other big extras, was at the school. So there's a school scene with a lot of little elementary school kids, and my daughters are right in front. Like Claire put them right in front, right behind Hunter. And they were in that scene, and so were my nephews. But a fun little thing happened with that where, you know, Claire, the first AD, is like managing all of these, you know, little kid extras. And so, you know, it's a couple of hours into it, and then one little kid is just, some of these kids are complaining like again, and she was like, come on, you wanted to do this. And they go, yeah, but we only wanted to do it once. So, yeah, it was really, it was fun stuff. It was fun shooting in town, but it was really fun being on the road. I mean, there were some just fabulous locations,
Yeah.
you know, just old bars and old laundromats and just crazy.
And, you know, photographed by the great Robbie Mueller. You know, like
Photographed by Robbie. Just unbelievable. We all learned so much from him.
Awesome. I guess maybe I could do one or two questions from the audience. Does anybody have any question? Oh, okay.
Appreciate it. So I'm just wondering, like, Wim Wenders is such a like spatial director to me. Like he uses space as like a way to express the communication of like everything. So I'm wondering, like, why did you like pursue him to like work with him and to like, you know, was it something related to that, or because his style is so eclectic? And, like, it just, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's amazing how this film, it almost like gave him the room that, say, Kings of the Road couldn't yet, you know, and because of our huge American landscapes. But for me, I mean, there was a way that he talked about approaching characters and a naturalism. There's a naturalism that he allows to have happen. And you see this in Perfect Day, you know, also, you know, where it's just so, there's just beautiful natural moments. And one thing I can't bear, it's just not my thing, is artifice. You know, I just don't like it. You know, it's just not interesting to me. Or people, you know, I got to feel like I've got a real person in front of me. And of course, all through this movie, you see that. And all through all of his work. I mean, whether it's Alice in the Cities, he also works so well with children, you know. So I think that that's what continues to get to me. You know, it's just the beauty of moments. If I watched Wings of Desire recently, too, on TCM or something like that, and I just couldn't get over it. I was just like, you know, Peter Falk being himself and being so natural, you know, and you know, Solveig was just so beautifully natural. I mean, there's just, even when she's talking to Peter Falk, there's a man, what's his name? She's like, I know nothing, you know. It's just like so cute, and she does this little laugh, and you know that it's real, it's on the cuff, it's in the moment. And most directors, most filmmakers work to get rid of that, of those little moments that seem not messy, but just,
They to the degree of making things over-rehearsed?
Oh, yeah, they want it very rehearsed and not, or they want the dialogue to be the thing. And that's often not, he's not even interested in plot by his own admission. You know, so he's just like, oh, it's always something you know, to him it's like a tedious thing you've got to deal with. And I tend to be the same way. I'm just like, can't we just sit with these characters for a while, you know, in this beautiful landscape? And, you know, so I think that that's part of it too. There's a meandering narrative to this, and that's what I've been accused of as well. Lovingly accused of often, but accused of it nonetheless.
We have time for maybe one more question if anybody has one. In the meantime, I'm just curious, who's never seen Paris, Texas before?
Oh,
wonderful.
Exciting.
Oh, you're in for a treat. This is a
Oh,
gorgeous
fun.
restoration. But for those who
Yeah.
have, or even those who haven't, maybe one more question? Anyone? I'll close with one more question. So I love hearing from you, Allison, this journey of you have a hero in the art form that you are in love with, that you want to pursue, and you pursued him to work under him, and ultimately got that opportunity. For anyone out here who's an aspiring artist or filmmaker or any kind, is that something you advise people? Like if there's someone whose aesthetic or whose style or you deeply respect, reach out, tell them about yourself, tell them this is what you want to do? Okay.
Absolutely. I would say yes, 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 yes. Now here's the thing. Don't get too attached to them, because you want to go do your own work after this. Try to study under them. If you can ever get on one of their films and get the kind of protection I had, I mean, you know I was very, very lucky. But if you find a filmmaker whose work you like, tell them about yourself. Don't tell them so much about, you know, don't try to get a job. I never knew what I was doing. I just wanted him to, I knew he existed and I wanted him to know I existed. It's almost like a creative love affair, if you were, you know. So, but I really took the mentoring seriously, and he took it very seriously. A mentor it is never a mentor's place to come and find you. People ask me all the time, would you mentor? And I'm like, no, I will not. I've been a teacher, I've been a professor. I won't mentor just randomly. You know, I'm not going to just go out there and say, okay, sure, I'm here as a mentor, whoever wants me, you know. No, somebody has to come to me and really want to know what I have to offer. Not saying I don't teach, you know, I did teach for 20 years, and that was great too. But it's up to you to find that mentor and for you to establish that relationship. And then it's a value. And then don't become their friend. Don't want to hang out. I mean, I would say that we're friends now, him and I, but there's a distance, and there's a distance for a reason, you know, because you got to protect that. It's something to protect, that relationship. I was just telling them, I asked him, I agreed to this before I asked him if I could do it. And then I said, oh my God, I didn't even ask you if that was okay. And he goes, no, please, we want you representing the film. Have fun, he told me. Okay, so we're all going to have fun now.
Well, let's give one more round of applause for our amazing special guest, Allison Anders.
Thank you, Craig and Logan.
Thank you for coming. For
Frida.
Mr. Craig Duffy on our board, who's brought Allison to us. Thank you so much, Craig. So you're about to see Janus Film Criterion's brand new 4K restoration of Paris, Texas. It is gorgeous. For those of you who've seen it, you've never seen it like this. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm jealous of you, because you're going to see it on the big screen for the first time, hear its beautiful music, and see this amazingly beautiful film that Allison helped work on. So enjoy, sit back, relax, turn off your phones, and enjoy Paris, Texas. Thank you.
I'll take one.